saying I am trying to solder 1mm diameter beaded wire onto a curved surface to recreate an Anglo-Saxon item, would I be better using solder paste?
Depending on how you're attaching the wire onto the surface. If it's going to be a curved surface, depends on, this is the thing, depends on how much soldering you want to do. With the beaded wire, there's like a little bridge going between it, isn't there? And then here then will be your the surface that you're going to be soldering that onto. I've done it straight, even though yours is going to be curved. So what you could do before you put the beaded wire on, it doesn't matter whether you use pallions of solder or solder paste, I would come along and perhaps just sweat solder a little bit of solder at intervals along the metal, okay? At intervals, okay? So then when you put your beaded wire on top, there'll be some beads that will be in contact with your solder that has been sweat soldered on. Flux it all, heat it up, this solder will flow and it'll then flow onto the balls that are going to be in contact. You don't necessarily want to solder every single bead on the beaded wire to the plates. That's just asking for trouble. You're going to be using too much solder. There's a chance then the solder is going to flow in between the balls here and it's not going to look beaded. So I would limit the amount of solder that you put on. If it's going to be curved and your beaded wire comes over like this, because you've got it on a curve, you could get away with perhaps sort of every other bead or every third bead, put your little bit of solder onto the metal, sweat solder it. Don't use too much. If you put too much on, you can always buff it or use a bird just to grind off that little bit if it's too much. But on a curved surface like that, you can do it quite easily. Flux these areas, warm it up. Try not to heat up these beads with the flame. Heat up the main body of the piece if it's a larger, thicker area, and then as this solder starts to melt, the heat will be transferred through to the beaded wire, and then the solder will just flow occasionally, obviously where it is, and to pull those beads into place. So it doesn't matter whether it's paste or pallion. Paste is going to be easier because you can limit the amount of solder that you put onto it, but either way, it doesn't matter. That is how I would do it.